the Heisman Trophy. It's the most coveted award in all of college football. We take a look at some early 2019 odds and share our analysis right here on the Gridiron Expert. If you have watched us at any point over the past 3 years here at the Gridiron Expert, you know that we love to analyze the Heisman Trophy race. And it was extremely fun for us last year as we actually had a true unpredictable race between Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa to see who would claim the prestigious award for the best player in all of college football. Most years you have 3 or 4 people invited to the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but everybody knows who's going to win that award. That was not the case last year in 2018, and I do not think that will be the case this year in 2019, as we could very well have a tight race between 2 more quarterbacks, and Tua Tagovailoa once again, and Clemson's Trevor Lawrence, the 2 quarterbacks that squared off in last year's national championship game. We're going to break down their odds and the 6 remaining players' odds. We have 8 players up here that we think have the best shot of winning the 2019 Heisman Trophy. And I want to again emphasize that it is early Heisman odds, as we still have a long way to go until the season starts. And you never know, you could have some major dark horse candidate that emerges as the season progresses. And these odds are not ours. We did not come up with these. We took these as a compilation from those in Vegas and ESPN and a bunch of other sites to put them up here for our 8 best odds going in to 2019. And we'll start with Tua Tagovailoa, last year's runner-up and probably this year's favorite in 2019. The star quarterback at Alabama probably would have won the Heisman last year had he not gotten hurt in the SEC championship game. And even though he got hurt a little later on in that game, he was not having his best game compared to what he had done previously and earlier in the season. And then he went on to the national championship. Of course, the Heisman had already been given then, but he didn't have a very good game there either. But Tagovailoa, despite all of that, threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 43 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. So he has 5-2 odds, the best odds entering the 2019 season, and probably everybody's favorite going into the season. Now, the key is going to be, can he stay healthy? If you listen to other analysts out there, they're all saying Tua has found out that he's mortal. Other teams have found out that he's mortal. For a while he looked like he was invincible. Wasn't throwing interceptions. Couldn't take him down. He was elusive. Was making beautiful throws. But he's mortal now. Will he kind of hit a slump in his junior year? I don't think so, but we'll have to wait and find out. We got our second best player up here in Trevor Lawrence. 7-2 odds, second best odds entering 2019, and arguably, I think, the best quarterback in college football right now. It really is going to be a duel between Tagovailoa and Lawrence. But keep in mind, Trevor Lawrence wasn't even the starter going into 2018 last season. Kelly Bryant got the start in week 1, but Trevor Lawrence quickly took over after that, throwing for 3,280 yards on the year, 30 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. And just as a true freshman quarterback, annihilated an undefeated Notre Dame team in the college football playoff, and then annihilated that Alabama defense 44-16 in the national championship game. We've never seen a player, especially a true freshman, do things of this caliber that Trevor Lawrence is doing at Clemson right now. Now, there is such a thing called as the sophomore slump. Now, I think a lot of people are hoping that Trevor Lawrence will hit that in 2019. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's going to be the case for him. He has too many weapons surrounding him. That's why he has such high odds. After such a great freshman campaign, I expect even bigger things out of him in his sophomore campaign. And Clemson's schedule is so favorable that Clemson has a very solid chance to be 15-0 once again. That includes, of course, a national championship. Jalen Hurts down here at 7-1 odds. Now, we know what he was capable of at Alabama under Nick Saban, of course, losing the job to Tua Tagovailoa. But he was the unsung hero of last year's SEC championship game. Chose not to transfer last year, very well could have, chose not to transfer, and came in and won the SEC title over Georgia for the Crimson Tide, which got them to the playoff, which got them to the national championship game. Now, Jalen Hurts didn't have too many stats to kind of rack up last year because Tagovailoa was a starter, but he is entering a very good system at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, who has produced the past 2 Heisman winners in Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. Now, very high odds for him, and I agree with these 7-1 odds here. I think that that's fair for Jalen Hurts. He's a talented quarterback. We know what he can do. He's more of a runner than a thrower. We know that he's very talented and elusive on the ground. I think Lincoln Riley really evolves his passing game, makes him a better passer, and that's why his Heisman odds are going to be so high, and once again making Oklahoma a major threat. If you're looking to win a Heisman, if you're looking to evolve your passing game, Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley is the place for you. That is the place to go to make yourself a better quarterback. Then we have 2 Big Ten quarterbacks here in Justin Fields at Ohio State, Adrian Martinez from Nebraska, both sharing 7-1 odds. And this is where I kind of disagree a little bit. I don't think their odds should be this high. I don't think either of them should have 7-1 odds, sharing the same amount of odds as Jalen Hurts. We'll start with Justin Fields here, who hardly played at Georgia, and I don't blame him for transferring. That was Jake Fromm's job. He's got it. He's done phenomenal things for the Bulldogs. But Justin Fields, a highly recruited player out of high school, transfers over to Ohio State, especially after Tate Martell choosing to leave to go to Miami. Did not have a very good spring game, though. Justin Fields did not. He really struggled there, and if you take away that 98-yard touchdown, his stats were pretty bad for an Ohio State spring game. Now, I get it. He hasn't played much. He didn't play much at Georgia. He hasn't played a single game, a single down for the Buckeyes yet. But 7-1 odds seem pretty high for me for a guy that we really haven't seen in real game action, in big game action. Now, Ohio State, bunch of turnover as well. Urban Meyer leaving, Ryan Day taking over, a phenomenal offensive system. We've seen what Ryan Day's been able to do with his quarterbacks as he was offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes. You had Dwayne Haskins, you had J.T. Barrett, you had Cardale Jones, you had multiple great quarterbacks come through this Ohio State program. Is Justin Fields that quarterback this year? I don't think so. I think he can do fine for the Buckeyes, but I don't think he should be up here with the third best Heisman odds entering 2019. Same thing for Adrian Martinez, sitting here at 7-1. There's a lot of hype surrounding this Nebraska program and a lot of hype surrounding Adrian Martinez. Now, I think Scott Frost is doing a phenomenal job with Nebraska. You saw how competitive they were towards the end of the season, really the last half of the season, compared to what they were the first half of the season. Martinez threw for over 2,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, and is a dual-threat quarterback, rushing for 8 touchdowns and 629 rushing yards. So I think him coming in his second year at the helm as quarterback is going to take major strides forward, much like I expect Trevor Lawrence to continue to make major strides forward. But is he good enough to have the tie for third best Heisman odds in 2019? I don't think so. There's a lot of hype around this Nebraska program, and I don't know if I'm buying into it just yet. I do believe they'll get to the postseason, but we're talking about them beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten championship. I don't know if I'm going to go that far yet, and I don't think I'm going to go as far as to say Adrian Martinez deserves 7-1 odds entering 2019. And we have Jonathan Taylor, the lone running back up here on our top 8 big board going into 2019. And a lot of people forgot about Jonathan Taylor last year. 2 years ago, he was in the Heisman race. Everybody was talking about him because Wisconsin was a college football playoff contender. They were one win away from making the playoff. Last year, Wisconsin kind of fell off the map, I believe going 8-5, so no one really talked about Jonathan Taylor, but his stats were still unbelievable. 2,194 yards, 16 total touchdowns, averaging 7.1 yards per carry and 168.8 yards per game. But once again, no one talked about him. This year, people might be because Wisconsin could see a resurgence with a new quarterback coming in and, of course, another solid offensive line led by one of the best running backs in the entire nation. He gets 15-1 odds here, and I think that's a very solid place for him to be because Wisconsin, just because a team doesn't perform well, the team overall doesn't mean that it should hurt someone's Heisman odds. If they're still putting up big stats like Jonathan Taylor put up, then I think they should still be in consideration. But unfortunately, that's not always how the Heisman Trophy works, how the Heisman consideration works. People kind of forgot about him because Wisconsin wasn't up there on the national stage like they had been 2 years ago. But 15-1 odds for Jonathan Taylor, arguably the best running back entering 2019. You won't want to sleep on him, especially with everybody talking about these big-name quarterbacks going into this season. Then our last two up here, Sam Ehlinger and Justin Herbert, both at 30-1 odds. And we'll start with Ehlinger at Texas, a guy that I really don't think gets enough respect. Texas, a couple of years ago was in a quarterback turmoil. They didn't really know who to have. Was it Sam Ehlinger? Was it going to be Shane Buechele? Ehlinger won the job and won it handily. Really showed that he was the right man for the job. Last year, throwing for over 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns compared to just 5 interceptions. And a lot of people don't consider him a dual-threat quarterback, but had 482 rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. So Ehlinger going to be the major key for Texas's success in 2019, especially with them having major expectations going into 2019. They lose a lot of defensive star power, but their offense will be extremely potent, and it all relies on Sam Ehlinger, who had, I think, over 75% of Texas's yards last year, offensive yards last year. So you're not going to want to sleep on him. He's going to be the key for Texas. Are they really back? It all relies on Sam Ehlinger. And then Justin Herbert, 30-1 odds as well. Could be the number 1 pick in next year's NFL draft. Should be at least a top 10 pick, assuming he can also stay healthy. But he's also, like Sam Ehlinger, the key for Oregon and their chance to maybe get to the college football playoff. A lot of people have them potentially winning the Pac-12 and maybe being that playoff dark horse. Herbert's going to be the one that has to get him there over 3,100 yards last year, 29 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions. And keep in mind, he was hurt at times last year too, so the stats could have been a little bit better. But Herbert is one of my favorite quarterbacks going into 2019. I actually feel that maybe his odds should have been a little bit higher. Maybe not 30-1, maybe somewhere around Jonathan Taylor, maybe 15, 20-1 odds. But nonetheless, if you bet on Justin Herbert and he does come out with a breakout year and somehow beats Tua Tagovailoa or Trevor Lawrence, you're going to make a huge payday. So you have to wait and find out how all this plays out. And once again, these are early Heisman odds. Every year we have some dark horse candidate that comes out of nowhere, starts off strong. Maybe by week 4 or week 5, we start talking about this dark horse guy that could potentially be challenging some of the favorites for the Heisman Trophy. Some people that could be considered that dark horse. You have Jake Fromm, the quarterback at Georgia. He could do another phenomenal thing, maybe get them back to the college football playoff, and maybe challenge Tua Tagovailoa as maybe being the best quarterback in the SEC. If you don't want to talk about a quarterback or a running back, you could be talking about Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver at Alabama, who some are considering the best wide receiver in the nation, or maybe Rondale Moore at Purdue, another wide receiver who's extremely fast and extremely elusive that I think could be probably the best dark horse candidate for the Heisman in 2019. So there you have it, our top 8 picks for the Heisman going into 2019. It's going to be a phenomenal year. And of course, when you watch our recaps every week, we'll be talking about the Heisman race, one of our favorite things to do right here on the Gridiron Expert. So thank you guys for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time here on the Gridiron Expert.